You're listening to a 630WPRO.com podcast brought to you by Atlantic Paper. Call 800-613-0950 or visit AtlanticPaper.com to find out how the Atlantic Advantage can make your life easier.
All right, the events of last week have now keep advancing, and I'm talking about with Senator Ruggiero and Senator Ciccone. The newspaper doesn't like these guys, that's for sure. And they're with the unions, and they get, hefty paychecks from the unions, and they've been representative of, their constituencies for years. They've been around a long time. One is Senate Majority Leader, the other, Senator Ciccone, was an up-and-coming, not up-and-coming, he's been there a while, and he also had some important positions. Well, they ended up in a frittata, as we say, in the old country. They were driving to Barrington, and they got nailed, or he got nailed. Ruggiero got nailed for driving erratically. And there was then of course, in fact, I was on the show after it happened. I said, well, you got to give him some credit because he didn't do that guess who I am, don't you know who I am thing. He was polite, courteous. The police report said that about Ruggiero. Then Senator Ciccone came on the scene, I don't know from where, and apparently, allegedly, I guess he admits it, was a little bit abrupt and a little bit threatening to the police officers, and they didn't budge. And it turned out that Ciccone had given $1,000 to one of the congressional candidates, former superintendent of the state police, Brendan Doherty. And now Brendan Doherty is returning the $1,000 and taking all kinds of criticism from some people, some quarter, because he didn't do it in time. So, Brendan Doherty, you're on the Buddy Cianci Show. How you doing today?
Hi, man. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Hi, Ron.
Pretty. I know how you can raise some money for your campaign.
How's that?
What you can do is write a little pamphlet as a former superintendent of state police. Do a map. How to avoid Barrington. Right? That's what you should do. You give the imprimatur of a former superintendent. Now, how to go around different routes so you don't have to go through Barrington. Anyway.
Yeah, I've got to say, since you mentioned Barrington, that kudos to those police officers. I commend them for doing the right thing and upholding the law. And they have a tough job. I remember when I was a young trooper out there. There's a lot of challengers out there, and they did the right thing.
All right, now, why did you return the money? He gave you $1,000, which, I mean, that's a legitimate legal donation. It was reported, the whole deal. Why did you feel compelled to return it?
Well, it was actually $1,250,
okay.
And I thought that first of all, I needed to get all the facts, and I gave it some time, and I took a measured approach, like everything else I've ever done, and I've never rushed to judgment in my career. I took a few days to look at it and make sure I had all the facts, and then looking at it, I think that Senator Ciccone used poor judgment, and really. There's no other way to look at it. It's poor judgment. I didn't want to be associated with my campaign. I had received I think 3 different donations totaling $1,250. So I thought it was prudent to return the donations. These things come up in political campaigns. This is the first time I've ever run for office, but it's something that I'm. Ethics is very important to me, and that there was poor ethical conduct out there at the arrest of Senator Ruggiero. So I thought it was the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, it was my decision. I would not succumb to media pressure. I understood there was some media pressure, wondering what I was going to do. Well, at the end of the day, it was my decision.
Yeah. Well, tell me something. There were 2 reports given. Is that unusual, Colonel, for a police department to issue one report and then a couple of days later issue? Because in that first report that came out, there was no indication that any wrongdoing was not. There was wrongdoing in the fact that there was driving under the influence, but there wasn't any allegations of using influence to get out of the charge or anything like that. In fact, they said that Ruggiero was polite in the report.
Yes. Well, to answer your original question, no, it's not uncommon to have 2 police reports. Okay. Matter of fact, in some cases, there's continuous reports because it depends on how many witnesses there are. There's an original police narrative that accompanies the arrest or warrant, and then there are witness statements after that, which may, not just in this case, but in any case, may have further information or further comments or statements that were made.
Now, when did the second report that implicated Ciccone? Ron, do you remember when that report was issued?
The story came out Friday afternoon.
On Ciccone?
Yes.
Okay, so Friday afternoon, the story goes on Ciccone. Here it is. Today is Thursday. When did you make the decision to make it public? Or when did you make the decision to give the money back?
I made the decision Tuesday night.
Okay.
And I believe we issued a press release around 1 or 2 o'clock yesterday.
So why... And I didn't listen to the Dan York show, and I'm not going to criticize Dan York, but I didn't listen to the show. But I heard that he was not exactly complimentary of you because he said you waited too long. The report came out on Friday. Saturday and Sunday is the weekend. I'm sure that it wasn't exactly uppermost in your mind to check to see how much money he had given you if you're going to give it back. And so Monday goes by, and then Tuesday you make the decision to do it. So do you think that was an inordinate number of days to wait? Or do you think it was out of line to wait 48 hours or whatever it was?
No, in retrospect, I could have, when I heard that Senator Ciccone was somewhat involved in that case, when it originally happened, someone called me and told me, they actually gave me some other senator's name that was involved, so I think there was some confusion as to who the second guy was. But when I finally found out it was Frank Ciccone, it was during the weekend, and no, I wasn't going to rush to judgment during the weekend, and I needed to, I actually got a call from Giovanni Ciccone, my campaign manager, on Sunday evening.
Yeah. And
Monday morning, I had a personal issue that I had to attend to, so I needed to take Monday to assess it, and then Tuesday I made that decision. And I had spoken to a few people. I have, people around me who are give me advice on the campaign and whatnot. Some. With varied degrees, I'll tell you, I had advice coming in different directions, but at the end of the day, it was my decision, and I decided to return the money. I thought it was
well. There was one of these local operations that did a story about who Ciccone is given to, and I've known Ciccone for a lot of years, and Ruggiero also. I mean, when I was mayor, I dealt with him, and so naturally they go back. Was it Channel 12 or somebody? They go back to 1990 something, and said he had given. My campaign years ago, $100.
Well, you should return.
Well, I said no, baloney. I ain't returning nothing. Number one, and number two, if I did return it, I'd present day value it, probably worth about $10. You see, because that's all $10. That's all $100 today is $10. 15.
Yeah, I heard about that news report. I didn't get an opportunity to read all the names, but from what I understand, there's quite a few of them.
Yeah. So the point is, you don't feel you waited too long. You think that you had a personal issue on Monday that you had to tend to, a family issue or something like that.
Monday morning, yes.
Okay, and so Tuesday you made the decision to get the money back.
Yes, and I stand by my decision because I don't think people would want elected officials, especially someone running for Congress, who would jump right to a conclusion without getting all the facts. But I will say, the original story I heard was poor conduct, poor attitude. It was disrespectful, and I had pretty much made up my mind. But I wanted to make sure there were no mitigating factors that I didn't know about. So, again, it was my decision. I made it. I'm comfortable. I'm sticking with it. But I've got to say, it's a good lesson for people who try to take advantage of ranks and privileges and titles. This situation, because they need to know no one's above the law. I've seen so many people during my career in law enforcement with, and I'm not talking about just law enforcement, people with badges. I mean, a lot of these municipal and state and federal agencies, they don't even have to be in law enforcement. They have badges and IDs, and it means nothing. No one's above the law.
I'll never forget when I was mayor, I was laying in bed minding my own business, and the phone rings, and it's a friend, and he says, the cop here wants to talk to you. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. It's 12 o'clock at night. I said, no cop wants to talk to me. So I says, where are you? I'm on 95. Well, he thinks I'm drunk driving. So I said, well, I don't want to talk to any cop. I said, who's there? So he said, nobody, Mayor, just the cop in the Channel 12 truck that I hit. That's in my book. That's a true story.
Yeah. So those are the positions that some people
exactly.
put in. But again, kudos to the Barrington Police. They did the right thing. They upheld the law, and they were very ethical.
All right. So I don't think that it's out of the ordinary to wait a day or two. I mean, you say you want mitigating circumstances, number one, and number two, you had a family thing Monday. And so you made the decision on Tuesday to send the money back for whatever reason that you had, and you just explained what it is.
Right. I stand by my decision.
All right.
Okay. Can we shift over to another topic? Because I was listening earlier, if that's all right. Do I have a minute?
Sure.
When you were talking about the Henderson, Nevada trip.
Oh, yeah.
I just think it's fascinating, and sad, and it's just unbelievable in this day and age. You know, 'cause I talk about fraud and waste and corruption in the federal government because there's plenty of it.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty of waste. But when you look at that, $825,000, wouldn't that be well spent in Woonsocket or Central Falls, Rhode Island, or even Providence? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think you said earlier, I'd like to add all of this abuse up from the bridges to nowhere, the cylinder, the $536 million in cylinder, Medicare fraud, the millions in fraudulent tax returns sent to prisoners, inmates in prison.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just in these trips, that's not the first trip that I've looked into. There's many, many of them.
Yeah, because you said that's going to be one of the earmarks of your campaign, one of the...
I'm going to shine a light on fraud and waste in federal government. That's just waste. There may not be any corruption there. It's just a poor decision. I understand the head of GSA had resigned.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it probably gets a little deeper than that. Whose idea was it?
That's correct.
And they brought a mind reader in. Maybe they could use the mind reader to find out why they would spend that kind of money.
Need a psychiatrist. All right, Brendan Doherty. For one segment, we thank you for calling in and at our request, and we got your answer.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, take care.